Okay, we're still swarming all over. Your first quarter GDP numbers are printing 2.01% in first quarter this year. That's lower than 2.38% in the fourth quarter of last year, but much better than 1.98% in the first quarter of 2018. So let's talk to Michael Famoroti for just about a minute or so. Michael, thank you very much for talking to us this morning. Michael, thank you very much for staying with us there. Paul Alaje, who is a senior economist at SPA Professionals from Abuja Studios. Paul, quickly with you. So where's the future of the economy within this GDP? Some folks are saying, well, 2.01% in first quarter means that the rest of the year is going to be positive. What's your reading? What's your take? Look ahead now.
Yeah, my take is that Nigeria may need to look at similar countries, India, Indonesia, and China. What is their GDP report? For India, as at the last quarter of 2018, grew above 6%. China, the same quarter with Nigeria, grew above 6%. And Indonesia has also had a growth that is above 5%. These countries have huge population just like Nigeria, and they have mass land like Nigeria. But there is something they might have done differently, which Nigeria seems to be catching up with, which I think our rate of acceleration in this regard will be higher than what we have. What is that thing? They are blessed with where Nigeria is blessed is on mineral resources. Some of them may be not crude oil, but they are also blessed with what Nigeria is blessed with, which is human resources. They've converted their human resources to the brain behind their growth for their industries and for manufacturing. Nigeria needs to focus more attention on manufacturing. That is what provides sustainable jobs, unlike what we have, what we are running our economy with, say, oil sector, which contributes less than 10% of the GDP growth to what we've just recently, according to National Bureau of Statistics. So for me, I would want Nigeria to focus more on manufacturing so that we can have better growth, going to about 5, 6, 7, or in fact 10%. And I know that because we are closer to the rest of Africa, where we know that consumption is what also in Africa generally, apart from few countries in Africa that produce. At that point, Nigeria may be ready to sign that agreement among African countries. But if our level of production is still very low, we might still be having GDP growth rate that will range between 0 to just 3%, which might be lower than our population growth rate. Okay. But good news for the sector that have grown, we must give accolades to those that is due, but we need to do more so that we can compete among the Committee of Nations. Okay.
Paul Alaje, stand by in Abuja Studios there. Let's touch base with Michael Famoroti at the Nigerian Stock Exchange, our studios in downtown Lagos. It's been very heavy downpour and still a sprinkle of that as we speak right now. So, Paul, Michael, we appreciate that, everyone. Sorry, we apologize for that technical difficulties we have at this point in time. Michael Famoroti, thank you very much, a partner at CS and a former chief economist at Vetiva Capital Management. Thank you very much. Have a great day, and just step out into the waters there in Lagos. It's going to be, I'm sure, it's flooded all over downtown Lagos, even uptown. So keep that in mind, guys. Get some boots, get some coveralls. Expect to spend more time in vehicular snarl across the 20 million populated city. Paul, let's stick with you as we, I'm sure it's a little bit dry there in Abuja today. What's the weather looking like? Paul, come in here.
Before getting to the studio, Abuja weather is very good, very calm, cool. So, but what is going on out there right now, because Abuja is very unpredictable with weather these days, and I think it's the same for the entire country. The weather is good, and sometimes it might just change, and we witness rainfall. But you know, this is May, and it's what Nigerians call, this period is what we call the rainy season, and it might be raining at different places, almost at the same time, at different times across the country. But for this morning, Abuja have got very good weather conditions.
Okay, Paul, so Godwin Emefiele and the rest of his Monetary Policy Committee folks are already seated now, and they are starting their two-day meeting. So I'm sure that will be a very big story, our GDP numbers as well as the inflation. 11.37 that we got late last week. All this will come together into what they will be discussing. So Paul, stick with us a little bit to the end of this segment of the show. I will get back to you on that. But first, let's talk it. Let's go to the global space very quickly. Let's touch base there. The European stock markets are not looking good early today, taking a cue from the Asian markets, where a lot of saber rattling between Washington and Beijing is still causing some market upset. Meantime, the OPEC Plus started their meeting in Saudi Arabia over the weekend. Oil prices moving up. Nigeria's benchmark ICE Brent crude north of $73 a barrel. Some good news for the policymakers in Abuja. But let's look at this all together as we step into the first trading day in the UK market. So let's talk to Simon Apuse, who is a China TV business correspondent out of our London studios, to give us a sense of where we're starting this from London this morning. Simon, good morning. Welcome to the show. Okay, I think we have a bit of technical issue. Why does this happen whenever it rains so heavily in Lagos? Everything just got watered. Okay, let's bring you to the biggest story on the Nigerian market, of course, which will continue today. MTN mega listing, 20.35 billion. On Thursday, the stock finished up 21% on the upside. Market cap on Friday, when we went for the weekend, 2.216 trillion naira. That's the big story, but folks are still looking for the free float and the liquidity. But the big story is about what happens moving forward. This company is being held by just less than 2,000 beneficial owners since they started doing business 18 years ago, nearly 20 years ago. And the man who's been there since the very first is Pascal Dozie, a former president of the Nigerian Stock Exchange and a former chairman of Diamond Bank, PLC, now in Access Bank. So we had this very one-on-one with Pascal Dozie. Had this one-on-one with him to recap the journey of how he became the founding chairman of MTN Nigeria and what that means for him stepping forward. Let's take a listen.
Mr. Dozie, it's been a very long journey getting MTN Nigeria on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. As a former president of the Nigerian Stock Exchange itself, you have very big honor of being a former president of the exchange and the one who's been the chairman of MTN Nigeria all these years. So how do you feel on this very big day?
Relieved.
How do you mean?
Well, you know, you said I was a past president of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. And therefore, I have, can I say, a flavor of attachment to this institution, not only to Nigerian Stock Exchange, but to the capital market. Because the capital market of this country needs to be deepened. It needs to be deepened because it is only through capital market can you develop a country. This is not from, from the monetary angle. The monetary aspect of it, the banks can supply short-term funds. But if you want long-term funds, medium to long-term funds, which you need for development, it's from the capital market. Again, I feel, a bit humbled that God, in His infinite wisdom and mercy, has made it possible for this day to happen. Because MTN as an institution, I didn't say company, as an institution, it's something which almost everybody should participate in, both in its development and also benefiting from its success. Then you come to, therefore I have an anxiety in these last few years. How does this day happen? And it is fortuitous. 3 days ago, I asked the management, I said, who chose this date? And this one says, the company secretary said, it wasn't him, it was somebody else. I said, why are you asking? You seem to be anxious of this date, 16th of May. I said, yes. Please, can you go and check when the first call was made by MTN? It turned out to be 16th of May, 2001. I had a feeling that it was that very day, but you see how fortuitous it is. 18 years after, without anybody realizing it, MTN is listed on the same day.
The first call was made.
The first call was made.
A very great time. I'm sure if you give us a bit of a look back again, how MTN actually got into Nigeria. This is a company headquartered in South Africa, and I'm sure you were part of the market when MTN came as a private company to Nigeria. So how did you get to Nigeria in the first place?
I think MTN had always wanted to come to Nigeria. They've made one or two attempts to come, but I think those attempts didn't materialize for one reason or the other. I wasn't part of those attempts. I know that I was in my office one day, a young man walked into my office and said he's looking for a Mr. Pascal Dossier. Then they brought him into my office. He's a Ghanaian, I've forgotten his name now. He said, oh, he has been sent by MTN to get in touch with me. And this is what their plans for this country. So, and they would want me to participate. I said, what is it all about? He said, mobile telephony. For the life of me, what does that mean? I said, okay, I would help. Anything that has to help development in this country, I would be part of it, if I can. So, and I said, okay, what does it entail? He said, he gave me that they would want some Nigerians to participate, and they are willing to give us 40% of the company and 60% with the. I said, how much is involved? He said, well, he doesn't know, but it's not a small sum. I said, okay. Then I asked him, I said, okay, it depends on, the project can be whatever it is, but it depends on the financial structuring. He said, yes. I said, okay. Okay, take it that I said yes, that I'll be involved once I get to know more about the people I'm going to deal with and how the operation, the plans are. So that's how we started, to cut a long story short. This was before the bidding for license. It's a long story. I don't know whether I have time to listen to it. Because during the bidding, one of the rules of the bidding is that you cannot participate in more than one company bidding. Therefore, if you belong to company A bidding, you can be in company B, so no matter how much money you have. And where you have that double dipping, as it were, then both companies will be disqualified. So, but I think, I may seem to be diverted, but I think what has happened at one time then is that if you looked at the newspapers that time, you will see my name appearing in one or two or even more than one company. That means that I was double dipping. And then MTN came to me one day, came to my office, gave me a letter and said, they don't want to have anything to do with me because continuing dealing with me means that they will be disqualified because I was double dipping. They weren't too sure of what they were saying but they were following what has been reported in the newspapers. You see me every day, my pictures. You cross-check this. And then I said, okay, if you think that I'm an embarrassment to you, it's okay. In any case, for me, mobile telephony meant not that much, because what was it? So we left it like that. Then I stopped following them. And I still remember one day when I was in Abuja, and I was on the 10th floor of the Hilton. And then I was having breakfast. Of course, all the MTN guys who were my colleagues, SY colleagues, were having breakfast on the same floor. I couldn't even talk to them. So, anyway, you ask me, how did I come back? Now, I came back because one day the then chairman, Mrs. Chanley, came to me and said, they want to come and apologize to me because they found that I wasn't double dipping. I said, how did you find out? He said, they were going with one of the companies with whom I was supposed to be associated with. And then asked them, this Mr. Dozier, what sort of a person was he really? How did you people find him? The man said, he has never met me. Only saw my name in the newspapers, and he was wondering why they were associating me with them. And they made their investigations and found out that I wasn't. And they apologized, and then, can I join them back? I said, well, that's your call, not mine.
Pascal Dozier, the founding chairman of MTN Nigeria. Okay, so that's back to our big story about the GDP first quarter at 2.01%, printing a bit lower than 2.38% in the fourth quarter of last year. Paul Alaje, chief economist at SPA Professionals in our Abuja studios. Paul, a very quick one in 30 seconds. To wrap that up with you. Thank you so much. So with the big MTN story and all of that, what do you think the telecom sector should be doing or will be doing moving forward?
Now, I'm imagining that we have more telecom companies being listed. I believe that many of them will now be listed on the exchange so that we can also see how to bring some of the private organizations to public company. We saw meaningful growth in MTN shares, I think after 24 hours or so of being listed. And I think it's good news for Nigeria. MTN has been listed in Ghana for a while. It's just doing this in Nigeria. And I believe that Nigeria Stock Exchange is also going to have a blessing in all of that. I want us to look beyond what the exchange is currently experiencing and look beyond that and see how we can get more private company being listed and become public organization in the coming period. And when this happens, it means we are going to have more transparency in the telecom sector and see how that's the impact or the growth that telecom will have on the GDP. Of course, it will be an expansion. And this is what I'm looking forward to seeing in the coming quarters of the GDP for 2019.
Thank you so much. Paul Alaje, senior economist at SPA Professionals. Do have a great week ahead. We appreciate your being there live to us from our Abuja studios. When we come back after the break, Temple Ashajo, our business correspondent, will take you to an official of the Nigerian Stock Exchange on this issue and a bit more. But first, let's take a quick break. 2 minutes, everyone.